Now, the DA, FF+, ACDP, IFP and EFF all objected to a report proposing an amendment to Section 25 of the Constitution. The ANC required the support of the EFF to make up the two-thirds majority. And as expected, that did not happen, with MPs today rejecting the proposed legislation. Our reporter, Lindsay Dentlinger, has been following the debate and joins me now for an update. Good afternoon, Lindsay. A very interesting day in Parliament, I must say. Some would say they actually didn't see the objections by so many parties coming. Just take us through some of those key takeaways.
Well, Mfundo, this has been a protracted process, more than 3 years in the making since the EFF first made the motion or put forward a motion to look at whether the Constitution needed to be amended to expropriate land without compensation. You will recall the ANC quickly amended that motion and didn't want the EFF to claim it for themselves. So it's been a really long process, first starting with whether the Constitution should indeed be amended, public hearings on that. That took at least a year. And then over the last 2 years, of course, the pandemic also playing a role in the middle of this, is exactly what that wording would be to amend the Constitution. And that is essentially what was voted on about just less than 10 minutes ago. A two-thirds majority, of course, required to pass an amendment to the Constitution. And I think it became increasingly apparent in recent months that the ANC was on a hiding to nothing if they were expecting the EFF to vote with them on this amendment. Of course, today, all these opposition parties once again reiterating positions they have held for months now on where they stand on this matter. Most of the opposition parties, the DA, the IFP, the Freedom Front Plus, all saying it's unnecessary to amend the Constitution, that it already paves the way for land expropriation without compensation, and that to make any changes would just have a detrimental economic impact on the country. But of course, the day really was going to be to see what the EFF would do. They were the kingmakers in this debate, whether they were going to side with the ANC to push this amendment over the line. But that was not to be. The leader, Julius Malema, insisting that the EFF was going to stand by its position that it wanted all land in the country to be under state custodianship. They were not prepared to accept the amendments that the ANC were making. And so really a process, a 3-year process, has now really just come to naught, Mfundo. Here are some of the views expressed during that 2-hour long debate from the ANC, the DA and the EFF.
The amendment bill that is before us seeks to address this inhuman crime, or this crime against the African majority. Now, those who unfortunately have to vote with us on this matter are the beneficiaries of this crime against the African humanity, and they have the support of a coalition of some Africans who do not know the history of this country, and they are supporting this because they hope that through their unholy coalition in 2024 they will gain power and do what they like. But we want to assure them that the ANC is still in power, and the ANC has other instruments that it will use to ensure that the people of South Africa get access to the land. So we are not worried about those who are not supporting this bill, but we are quite confident that with or without them, the ANC is going to make the land available to the people.
They are hell-bent on protecting the interest of the settler minority, an oppressive and exploitative system of land holding as represented by the current freehold arrangement to title. We reject this bill and call on millions of our people to do whatever it takes to get their land back. We tried, but the parliamentary process was hijacked by the ANC and their handlers, and unless we have overwhelming majority in parliament, black people stay landless in this country. Our people must take it upon themselves to ensure that they return what was stolen from them. This process is a failure. The ANC is completely captured by white monopoly capital, and it will not do anything in its power to return the land to the rightful owners. It is led by cowards who don't want to offend their handlers.
In Section 25(4), the Constitution places a specific responsibility on the state to give effect to the nation's commitment to land reform. Section 25(5) is very clear that the state must take reasonable legislative and other measures within its available resources to foster conditions which enable citizens to gain access to land on an equitable basis. It cannot be more clear. The proposed amendment changes this specific obligation of the state and substitutes it with a vague reference to certain land to be placed under the state's custodianship. In other words, custodianship is included for the mere sake of winning the support of radical populists. The addition of custodianship also goes beyond the mandate given to the ad hoc committee by the National Assembly and can therefore not be included in this bill. To address the question of whether this bill complies with the founding provisions and values of the Constitution, we have to look at what the status of property rights is in our Constitution. A primary element of the rule of law and human rights, two of the founding provisions, is that it should include respect for property rights. This is in line with international law and specifically Article 17 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to which South Africa is a party.